Hey, what's up, fellow heads? It's your boy Patience once again. I decided to come at you guys with a little new one. So in this one, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the in-game stuff coming in 4.5 and some of the stuff that we are already experiencing, some of the stuff that we'd like to experience, and some of the stuff that we have not been experiencing. So I also want to bring a few proposals in, a few ideas that maybe I think we may like, maybe we may not like, but it's something that's up for discussion. So we can progress into the verse in a fashion that we may or may not be satisfied with, as we currently are, might I add. So just bear with me. I'm gonna try and get something loaded up here so we can go through this together, like previously. Um, I'll be this guy. I had primarily kind of recorded this video, but things didn't really pan out so well, so that was very unfortunate. So hopefully this time I can go through and everything will be alright. What happened was I lost the sound to the previous video. So anyway, guys, we obviously know that RMC is coming into the verse, and how we use that RMC, might I add, which is taking recycled composite materials and using it to repair our vessels, which I think is an awesome idea. The only thing is I don't think it's as grease monkey as it could be or as it should be. I'm a grease monkey dude, my darn self. I like the idea of being a mechanic or an engineer, getting in there, getting my hands dirty, greasy, and trying to repair things the old-fashioned way. This lets me know that the components I have in my computer system are being used and functioning in a way that they never have been before. Obviously, it's an NVIDIA GPU. A lot of us are playing with CUDA cores and the likes, and it's got AI integration, etc. We're gonna put these things to good use, guys. We got memory, we got storage systems, and we know. So the idea is taking good advantage of these things, especially in the situation that we're at now, where we can. So anyway, recycled material composites. Each ship and each ship's components. Oh yeah, by the way, this isn't rough, so if there's missing words or spelling mistakes, please forgive me for that one. But I will try to patch it up best I can on the fly. So anyway, each ship and each ship's component should take a specific remedy or ingredient in order to fix a particular component. For instance, wood cannot repair alloy metals, and plastic cannot repair heat-resistant materials such as copper. For this, each multi-tool should be specifically targeted, specifically tagged by a holder to indicate its particular use in any case. An indication for the component it can repair specifically. So, noted, to repair a component comprised of certain elements which we may or may not find in the periodic table would be crucial to mine in order to produce specific material composites for that certain component in your ship. For example, crystal, gold, silver, zinc, iron, chrome, including granite to ensure the durability, complexity, and finish of your devices. Alkaline can even be a found agent property used in the process of forming and shaping glass. The point is not magically repairing, but realistically and knowledgeably as closely as physically repairing your ship as possible to keep the intuitive feel of a mechanic or engineer as possible. This way, we'll find players mining or buying specific mining composites from other players or stores to ensure they are able to keep on the move regardless of the expeditions they are likely to run into out there in the naked verse. Buying spare parts would also be awesome. So if our component completely go bust or critical, then we open it up and repair it or repair and replace, becoming a grease monkey, as it were, our darn selves. So that was the point that I was trying to bring out earlier. So rather than just getting a multi-tool, put in, recycled composite material, which is anything, and just putting it at the target and repairing it that way, and it just magically fixes to a certain percentage, however it works. To me, that seems like a kind of dupey way of doing it, and I mean dupe. It's kind of like a lazy way of doing it. I believe the better way to approaching that would be, there's a planet, let's say for instance Daymar, and let's just say Daymar specializes the produce of crystal, crystallized rocks, whatever. So you go to Daymar, you mine that because you say to yourself, I'm going to need this for my jump drive. You fly over to Aberdeen, and Aberdeen specializes in copper, let's say. So even though it's a hot world, it's relatively cool, whatever. So you go to Aberdeen, and you land on Aberdeen, you mine yourself the copper, because copper is also another composite agent used in keeping your systems cool, and you can use it in multiple things, your coolers, your jump drives, etc, etc, etc. So we actually go out and get ourselves the raw materials so as to process these raw materials into parts, whether it be screws, bolts, screwdrivers, hammers, whatever the heck it is, certain machineries. So we'd use these things for certain machineries. Um, we'd use these things for certain machineries in order to produce items for our machineries. Once obviously we do that, then we either one repair our mechanisms, either the hard way, which is physically, or we create recycled composite materials specifically for that component, not just for any random component, because it kind of doesn't make sense. Maybe this carton of RMC has nothing else in it but copper, let's say, or it's got a few elements in there that has nothing to, I don't know, coincide for the genetic makeup or something like glass, so trying to point and fix glass or create glass just doesn't make sense, because you don't have the right elements or the right materials to create glass. So trying to stick to the book this way, having the periodic table, which we saw in one of the ASD labs, which if you get the number, I would have preferred getting one of the elements codes, the CO whatever, but we went with the numbers. Taking the numbers from this way, the periodic table actually has reason to be within the it has purpose. The reason being is because if you get confused and you say, well, I don't know what element you can always turn back to the periodic table. The periodic table is something that can take you down many paths, and it gets intricate, and it can even take you away from the game to go and invest your time into science expeditions, so as to learn, so that you can come back and approach matters a little bit more directly, personally. So I think that would be the best way to go, rather than the kind of Hogwarts style. Anyway, guys, realistic ship battle model proposal. So I hear a lot of people talking about ship battle models. One of the main guys would be Avenger 1. I'll probably try to leave a link to each station so you can hear how he'd be talking about it. Another one I think would be Jonathan Winters, so I'll leave a link to his station so you can hear what he'd be talking, because they both seem clued up on how the ship battle model works. Avenger 1 will probably be the best guy to listen to in this regard. Anywho, I believe I have something like a solution. It's not necessarily a solution, but a model that I think should be looked into. And I will try to forward a few other proposals that will help not just this model, but all models actually work and function. So, ship shields against plasma. If you lower your shields, this is from the previous video that I came up with when I was saying ballistics on shields and plasma on shields. I will go through and we can see if we can make any sense of it, guys. Ship shields against plasma. If you lower your ship shields to minimal and allow your aggressor to send an array of plasma heated projectiles to bombard against your shields will gradually begin to charge to full health before they begin to overheat, if that makes sense. This would bring a whole new level of strategy to battle, considering we all agree that ballistics have no effect on shields at all. I'll cover this bit a bit later, guys. The stronger the output energy of a plasma round, the quicker it would be to overheat shields, as well as distorting the recharge time. Do the maths. If your cooldown capacitors dispel heat in space, not on planet, not on the moon, in space. If your cooldown capacitors dispel heat in space at a rate of 80 units per 5 seconds, so I didn't go with Kelvin, I'm going with units. It's an example. So, if your cooldown capacitors display heat in space at a rate of 80 units per 5 seconds, but you've overheated 160 units on every hit, which means the heated plasma shots coming at you are, equivalent to 160 units of heat generation. So you're used to getting rid of 80, but you're getting 160. That's double the heat generation. Every 5 seconds, you will end up removing half of your overheated access. But 160 times 4 is 640, so in translation, that will convert to 40 seconds to cooldown time if your aggressor's projectiles are halted. So if he's shooting at you consistently, and then he stops after he hits you 4 times, it's probably going to take you 40 seconds to cool down. That's if my maths are correct, but you get the point regardless. So, within those 40 seconds, however, the aggressor switches to his ballistics and tries to destroy your hull. Forgive me, my maths wrong. So, the point here is if we agree that ballistics have no effect on shields, what are shields? If I was to try my best to explain what shields are I guess you could say an electromagnetic force. You could say it's a plasma force. It's an energy force that prevents physicalized matter from passing through it, if that makes any sense. How is a shield generated? It's generated via energy. This energy obviously generates heat, so it needs coolers. If you shoot a bullet at the shield, the bullet is going to squish and become ineffective. If you shoot a bigger bullet at the shield, it's going to move the whatever the shield is protecting. So everything's going to be shifted out the way. It's not unless shields, like in Mass Effect, there's that ideology that it can shatter and break, which in this case you go with the decrease in energy. But if you was to continuously keep shooting something like steel, does the steel heat up? Chances are it's not going to heat up, and if it does, not so much. It's going to take a very, 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 very long time to heat up shields with ballistics. Plasma is heated, charged energy. When you shoot that at your shields, the shields are going to begin heating up, which means you're pumping too much energy into your shield capacitors. So what's going to happen is your shields are going to start decreasing in energy because it's overheated until the shields are completely dissipated. Once this happens, you change back to your ballistics, you start shooting at the hull of the ship. you tear apart the ship in practically no time. That's how you would assume that works. So that's the proposal here. The proposal is using a different level of understanding to ship battles. How does this work? Now, um, let's say you've got size 1 shields. Okay, you got size 1 shields. Let's say you got size 1 shields and you're going against size 3 plasma guns. You now got to say to yourself, as a astro pilot of the size 1 shield, is it wise for me to fight size 3 plasmas? This guy's coming at me pretty headstrong, and my shields aren't going to be able to take a lot of his projectiles. So you say to yourself, how am I going to approach this? Am I going to battle this guy? You might test him out to see just how good he is at astro piloting dogfights. Or you might say to yourself, I'm going to try to dart out of here as quickly as possible. However you choose to battle this guy, or whatever the strategy you come up with, the best strategy in this instance would be to lower your shields right down to minimal. The reason being is because when he starts sending these projectiles, instead of overheating, you're gonna recharge. Your shield capacitors are gonna start maximizing to full charge health. When that happens, you keep sending projectiles. Now you're overheating, so your shields start going down to where they dissipate. Once they dissipate, he now has to turn over to his ballistics and start firing at you that way. The only problem with this is here's where the strategy comes in, is when your shield capacitors are overheating, which means they're becoming fully charged. They're becoming fully charged at a rate that it has not been approved at, because it dissipates heat by let's say 80 units per 5 seconds, but you're receiving a heat constant at a certain rate, and its heat exchange is not going to be compatible with your shield generators. It might be generating heat by quadruple the time, or whatever. So once you start overheating, your cooldown time might take a little bit longer. You'll have to do the maths on that, and then he's trying to hit you with ballistics. So it's not just like that 40 seconds. It's you begin to get you carry, it's like division when you begin to carry numbers over. So that's where it would become fun. A little bit of maths would be generated into your battle. So you could kind of say to yourself, I could allow him to believe that he has me in a corner so that I can take advantage of his ego. Once they start getting confident, you could kind of switch the tables on them. So anyway, so that was my proposal. That's one of the proposals to a space battle model, because obviously I have a few approaches to how you approach space and space flight and space flight battles. Anyway, guys, we'll move on to the next one. Sorry, that's the second page. We don't want that yet. The next one is compatibility, which is obviously another very important one, because our approach to this at the moment is pretty retarded, if you ask me. So it says it should be more compatible, to where it should make more sense to be more for compatibility items such as backpacks, etc. But it should be more compatible to wear heavy backpacks with light armor and medium armor as to heavy. Bags have straps, and so do gun holders. And limiting players with the number of guns they carry at one time makes no sense. I may want 2 or 3 pistols on my hip. I want to carry more than 4 med pens. I want to wear a heavy backpack even with no armor or undersuit. I want to be able to carry a gun with only an undersuit or normal clothing, like in real life. So we'll break this down a little bit. Obviously, you can only wear a heavy backpack with heavy armor. I don't know where the logic comes in with that. I don't know where the sense comes in with that. I don't know where that ideology came from. I don't know whose idea it was. But I think it's pretty darn retarded. If I, right now, how I'm dressed, was to go outside and buy me a backpack, whether it's small, medium, or large, I can put it on my back right now. And depending on what I install into that backpack, whether it's materials, whether it's raw materials, clothing, whatever I put in that backpack, I can store on my back, right? Just so long as I have the muscle power to carry it or to haul it. I don't need to wear specific clothing to wear a specific type of bag, at least in most cases. If that is the case with these backpacks are specifically designed for armor, then I want to start seeing other different styles of backpacks put into the game stamina immediately, please, guys. The reason being is because I don't like having to wear certain size backpacks in order, which in other words, I'm having to compromise the kind of armors that I want to or would like to wear. For instance, I prefer wearing light to medium armors for my core. I like lights on my arms. This way I can maneuver, get about quicker. I like heavy bottoms. And I like a light to medium helmet, but sometimes I wear a heavy helmet. It all depends on the features of the armor in this regard. I've fortunately found me a nice looking head helmet. I tend to find there's not a lot of beautiful looking helmets out there. The helmets you got really big for those, and I don't really like what's out there being offered to us at the moment, but the ones that I do wear are the only ones that I really do like, so I showcase them off in the next upload that I do, just so we know for sure, because there's a lot of helmets out there and a lot of them not be looking all that good, if you ask me. And if they're not looking all that good, then they're looking too much like Power Rangers, and I'm not really into that look my darn self. So anyway, a little bit more compatibility, guys. There's no socks in the game. You don't want to dress in like these ankle swingers. I noticed there's a lot of like these ankle swinger trousers. They stop really high up on the leg, and the only way to compensate for that would be to wear boots. I don't always want to wear boots. I want to wear crepes, and I want to wear socks. So we need to get these things in the burst ASAP as well. I'm not sure where to get the shades from, but I've seen fried chicken with the shades, so I'm pretty sure you can get shades in the game, but I don't know where to get the shades from. So a little bit more compatibility would be awesome. Stepping aside from that, missions, guys, bomb squad missions and defusing bombs. These are missions I would really love to start tackling, besides going to Nyx. I've been to Nyx and I didn't feel like the experience was anything out of the norm or at the extraordinary. There was no pulsar. When I went flying over to Nyx for the very first time, and I saw Nyx, and then I was going to Levski, and then as I was heading over, I saw like this beam erecting from both sides of the poles of the star. And then as I came into the system of Levski, which I believe the system is actually called Levski, and Levski is not on Dalamar, but as I went into Levski's region, I realized it was just a dust cloud full of asteroids and probably a planet exploded, whatever. There was no pulsar, and as well, I'd like to see a black hole with a pulsar, within a planetary system, within as a star system. But anyway, bomb defusals. I would like to start seeing bomb defusal missions rather than going to places like Nyx that serves no purpose. There's nothing happening at Nyx. There's only a few guns you can buy that you can't buy anywhere else, and maybe a few armors. I'm not sure if armors were really unique. There's no reason to go to Nyx at all, and there was no real reason to go to Pyro. So I would rather see missions generated and put out there in the verse, because the ones that are currently in, if you ask me, aren't really all that fun. I find most fun with the ASD, tackling it in certain ways. So bomb missions would be awesome. Another mission that would be awesome would be save and escort. Not like the 890 jump, but similar to the 890 jump. That was a good step in the right direction, but that's technically the only one. What I'm talking about is give me a minute, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. So what I'm talking about is yeah, so better missions, guys. So bomb squads, defusing bombs, saving escort, similar to the 890 jump, step in the right direction. But like, say you got like an asteroid, and you got a bunch of science expedition guys that's gone out to an asteroid to do a little bit of research. They planted a few drilling materials, etc. They want to get samples, they want to investigate, they want to research. Something's gone horribly wrong. Maybe there was an explosion, their ship's been damaged, and they just need help to get off site and back to civilization so they can be medically treated, etc., etc., etc. When we go, we investigate to see what's happening. I'll go into depth with this in another video to bring out just how deep where I would like this to go. But so you know, you investigate, you try to get to the root of the problem to ensure that it weren't no criminal acts, etc. You kind of check over to see the damage. You take the people, put them aboard your ship, which is why I say ships need to have better utilization of space. You need more room in ships. Like now, this room that I'm sitting in currently is only a 12 by 12. And even this is a bit too luxurious for most of these ships in the application. I'm talking like 6 foot, just over 6 foot, maybe 6'2" by 5 foot, and then you play with that space the best you can to make it livable and operational. This way, you're able to fit so much more rooms than what you currently have in game, because it's, if you ask me, it's completely appalling. You could, like the Hammerhead for instance, you'll be able to get like 120 rooms, 80 to 120. But so this way we went with that method, you know, better utilization of ship spaces. Not to mention, if you're getting into org playing, or you are in an org and you have a big org and you got a big ship like a Hammerhead, utilizing the space better enables you to have more personnel on your ship for you know, like similar tasks and multi-role tasks. Like for instance, if you got a medic on your aboard your vessel, but for some reason today the medic's not on the game, then someone else can easily just fill in, or 2 other people can fill in. You want to have backup, you want to have reserves. So all these things are stuff that needs to be taken into consideration. Of course, most ships are supposed to have the mandatories, which is like a medical room, a cleaner room, you know, to ensure that you don't catch bacteria, all this stuff. You want to ensure that security, in many cases, you know, all this kind of stuff. You know, if you're going out into space, if you're to think right now, today, in this very day and age, if I was to get in a ship, what would I expect, and what kind of safe and healthy measures would be taken into consideration to ensure that our lives are kept in the most safest and secure way possible? Because it would be illegal to send someone out into space if you don't have the right measures taken into consideration. So taking that, because the approach at the moment is very game as simulator. A simulator like the Formula One, I'm going to get into this in a minute, would be you know, teaching people how to drive, not just drive but also not race in a simulator. I don't feel like I'm being taught anything here. I feel like I'm just flying around and having fun. So anyway, so if we were to take room utilization into consideration, we can also save people and put them on our ships, passengers, and escort them away from danger. So these kind of missions, I think, would be kind of fun. So that's save and escort, not necessarily having to use your guns, because most ships have guns, and you have to have guns on your ship, as it were. You buy your ship with guns, and most missions usually involve having to use your guns. So in this instance, it would be a mission where you just go, you save people, take them out of the danger. Passengers, obviously we know about the E1. Chances are there's going to be the E3, sorry, and chances are there's going to be a C3. So they're going to be interesting vessels to keep an eye on in the future. But these are stuff that I would rather see implemented than stuff like Nyx, where there's no reason to bring Nyx into the verse as far as I'm concerned. It's only just going to bring more bugs and more work for the team, I guess you could say us, as we're testing it as well, to have to go through, because Stanton still has a lot of stuff that needs to be repaired. There's a lot of ships that needs a lot of work, etc, etc, etc. Now we're thinking about Nyx atop of Pyro, and we're already thinking about Terror. So mechanics, being a grease monkey, actually fixing stuff, I think would be awesome, and bringing in kind of like in-game, what do you call it? Not necessarily tutorials, but anyway, I'll get to it in a bit. Mechanics, repairmen. These are job roles we're talking about. Food delivery, chefs, a tutor that can teach you how to fix your ship, a tutor that can teach you how to farm, medic, do medic work. So everything that's in the green comes under the tutoring. So, and this would be actual players as well. So you got farmers, you got medic, you got surgeons, like I tried to bring out earlier. Medic actually using real ingredients to help in-game patients, and surgeons comes under how I guess you could say the 3D developers create and design the 3D characters. For instance, just creating the body mesh is boring. I can do that. Anyone can do that. We've seen that in so many games already. This is next gen materials that we have installed in our systems. So I want to see something a little bit more exciting, a little bit more engaging, a little bit more understandable, which is blood. I don't know how much liters of blood is in my left arm. I don't know how much of liters is in my right arm, or my legs, my core, or my head. So if I shoot someone in one of these regions and they lose a certain amount of blood, then obviously the effects that come with that. Bones. You can, shatter someone's bones, you can break someone's bones. Arteries and veins, organs, all these things I would like to start seeing inserted into the mesh of a human being within Star Citizen. Not just a running around mesh. And obviously blood applied to these things. And a little bit more biology, I believe it's biology, where the effects, you catch a virus, or you catch symptoms, we catch symptoms, etc, etc, etc. So we can get to an understanding of the real world and in-game. So if I was to ever go VR, I don't feel like I'm playing Sonic the Hedgehog. I feel like I'm still in the real world, as it were. So I think this would be the best way to go, guys. So cleaner, security, police, detective, investor, banker, builder, plumber, bricklayer, plasterer, carpenter, electrician, businessman, news reporter. Because gamers are likely gonna know the information of what's happening around the verse. We want weather reporters, we want crime reporters, etc, 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 the latest. And I think that should be left to the players to do. I would like to start seeing superstores, more relevant things to buy in stores, more stores on moons, planets and space stations, buying Moby glasses from various vendors other than Hurston, other computing gadgets for daily use, more realistic environments. Moon bases and hubs and outposts have workers, but no toilets, kitchens or resting places. These complexes are out in the middle of nowhere. So when you go there, your immersion's completely shattered, because it's like, well, how do you survive? You're out here in space on the moon, nothing around for hundreds of kilometers. There's no fridge, there's no water, no one's bringing you no food, nothing. So that engagement is kind of like stripped away from us, and we're back in a game again as to actually being on the moon. So another thing I think is very important is trying to keep as close to photorealistic as possible. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the title of a new game. I think it's out already. At least I think it's playable. Called Body Cam. I'll try to leave a little link to it on the screen, or a little showcase of it on the screen. Just a brief little something, so you can get an idea of what we're talking about. The movement, how people die, the sound effects of not just the guns but the people when they're dying, etc. The aggression behind the voices, the smoke residue from the gun when you shoot it, the sound of the gun. Most guns are currently in the verse sound very sweet. They got like a pew pew kind of sound, but you want to hear more of a bark, like you want to hear noises like real sounds, so you feel like you're actually firing away at someone. Right now it's very sweet, and I can't say which is my best sounding gun at the moment, which is again pretty darn weird, because usually I have about at least 5 favorites amidst a good few other ones that just sound naughty. So anyway, I'm going to step on to the next and see what we have. I have seen no waterfalls, streams and dams, both natural and man-made, and it would be nice to see structures, water structures, in space stations. So obviously seeing a water structure within a space station would be neat, because it's like saying, we survived, we've made it to space, where natural coexisting hosts within space. So seeing water not floating around in 0G but actually fixed in a certain fashion and manner would be a way of stating that, stating humanity's existence and prevalence in the verse. So I'd like to start seeing that, hearing the sound of water as well, hearing the sound of environments like birds, maybe even crickets, hearing, a little bit of life would be nice, even if it's not actually there yet, but it would be nice to hear. I don't even think you hear the moose, the cows. I'm not really too sure, but when I saw them, I can't remember if I heard any sounds coming from them, but half the time I'm not usually playing my headphones on anyway, so forgive me if I'm wrong. But usually in like movies, TV shows and stuff, you can hear these things, so I would expect to be able to hear it, so I'm not too sure. Maybe I need the headphones on to hear the footsteps of my character as I'm running around and doing stuff, and hearing other footsteps, in like places like the ASD that is very echoey. It's an echoey environment. But so anyway, so seeing stuff like that, more water in the verse, more sophisticated designs, especially in space stations. Right now they just really feel copy pasted, which is not nice. And more streams and stuff, dams, ship voices. The option to choose the indication as to the function my ship is. The option to choose the indication as to the function my ship is in. For instance, when my landing gears are out or in, or if I've landed my vessel. Sorry, when my landing gears are out or I have landed my vessel, I can choose my ship to verbally tell me or indicate via fixed light or pulsating lights or letters that post on the MFDs in a certain particular style that I choose or fancy. So they might kind of dance up on the screen, say your ship's landed, and post there, or it might just steadily fix itself there. Lights might be flickering when my landing gears are out, and then when I've landed it stays. When I've put all my stuff away it vanishes. Or the ship says your landing gears are out, etc, etc, etc. However you want to approach it, but having the option to have as many options as possible to choosing how your ship tells you what kind of function you're currently flying in. So that would be awesome. Aries and Star Runner should be able to hold roughly around 80 to 120 missiles. The starfighter is a heavy fighter. If I'm not mistaken, it can carry at most about 16 missiles, which I think is very poor. And obviously, it only has that one strong shoulder weapon. The Star Runner needs to be better. The Star Runner needs better performing guns. I would assume size 6 on the roof, size 5 on the nose, and another size 6 at the bottom. That's what I personally reckon. Reason being is because it's going to be stealing data from bigger ships, and it's going to be stealing data from bases. Chances are it's going to be under a lot of fire, and it's going to get into a lot of heat. It's going to want to fire back and defend itself so it can get away with the data that is stole. You're going to want to get size 3 turrets on there, so that if you do have a team player, you can install that upon your ship, or you can take it off, but chances are you'll install it so your team player can also help shoot away. Meaning that the size 12s, if you divide it by the 6s, 6, 6, and then you got the 5s, are under the control of the pilot. Similar to the C1, where the C1 you have 4 size 3s controlled by the pilot. Taking that away from the pilot in an upgraded ship is actually a downgrade. So size 5s beneath, or with the choice of swapping out 3 turrets, etc. The Star Runner and C1 are medium-sized ships, but are both only effective against smaller ships, which makes them bullies. Chances are smaller ships ain't going to be running around with important data. So the C1 at least has 4 size 3s operational by the Astro pilot, but the Star Runner is a punch bag if flown solo like advertised and promoted. You're telling everyone it's a solo ship, that it's a single seater as it were, which means all these guns should be operational by the Astro pilot. Not to mention who controls the ray dish that well, I don't know what it's actually for, if it's to steal data. And another thing is but anywho, so as promoted, it would be nice if the Starfighter could receive a pair of size 3 turrets, or size 2s even, which like the C1 could be tucked away in the event you get into a scrap with a smaller fighter. I got into a scrap with a small fighter in my Starfighter. I actually make a common habit of doing it so I can train as much as possible. So if I do go against a big vessel, it'll be relatively easy. But anywho, it really is hard to hit these little punks. And so taking that into consideration, when you do go into the verse, and you're going against like these big ships, chances are these big ships are gonna have, if they're really big, they're gonna have big enough at least, they're gonna have like supporters maybe docked on their ships, so they might come flying out to try to take you out. If you got a few little guns on you, it would be easier for you to fight them away, whereas just that big size 7, it really doesn't make it hard. Now, I'm not necessarily saying put the guns on, I'm just saying it would probably be a good idea, especially considering the fact that the C1 is able to tuck its guns away, and there's a few little regions on the Starfighter, the Ares Eon especially, where you would be able to, there's space in order to have things tucked away, but I would consider more than most, overall, I would say, the more missiles, because there's certain ships out there that's smaller than this one, that's considered lighter fighters, and this one's hauling a hell of a lot more artillery, so it just does not make sense, especially at the price that it comes in at, and in regards to some of the other lighter fighters, so you kind of got to say to yourself, what am I exactly paying for here? Not just in-game money, but real money. We've got to kind of consider this stuff. Why am I asking you to pay so much on something that's not producing as much fight heat as this? It doesn't make sense. Am I paying for a name? Am I paying for a feature? Is it because the ship looks good? Why am I paying so much money for something that doesn't perform as good as something lighter than it? It just doesn't make sense. So the Starfighter is deemed a heavy fighter ship. So much more so much more missiles. Please, smaller ships fight at a better. Smaller ships fight with a better arsenal of ammunition. The Star Runner should have a better defensive weapon mechanism like the Starfighters. The Star Runner, obviously, on its left side, I think it has that shoulder piece, but unlike the Ares series, that shoulder piece is completely irrelevant. There's no point in it being there. You've got team players on your ship. My first thought was you change that shoulder piece into maybe like a Side 12 gun. But unlike the Eon or the Inferno, this one is more like a charge pulse gun. So you catch your target. You got to keep your target in view for a while the gun charges and locks onto the signatures and reads the signature. So chances are, once it locks onto you and you fire that shot, chances you're not going to miss. Or maybe you can prematurely shoot it, and because trying to hold onto a target is not always going to be easy unless it's a really big ship, unless they're trying to annihilate someone, even though you're trying to take the data. It wouldn't make sense whacking them that hard unless there's a specific reason. You must be really desperate. Anywho, maybe he's got backup coming, and if you're kind of stuck for choice, then taking out the bigger guns, because the bigger guns are going to work out your shields while these guys are working on your hull. So you take out the big guy before the little guys come, so that all they can do is try and work on your shields while you lower your shields and prep to jump. Applying a bit more thought into a lot of these ships, and to a lot of how the ships are designed internally, because so far everything is very luxurious. I don't think we need so much luxurious, guys. In ships, you don't need so much luxurious. I love the space stations, because when you like planet side apartments, because when you come back, the apartments, they're very cramped, and sometimes I look at it and think, wow, that would actually be a nice place to be like a single guy, and then you pair up with like a girl that's like your first apartment. It's a very nice situation, especially for the future. It looks gorgeous, but if you ask me, it's in the wrong place. I think that should be how most ships should look, but still a lot smaller. I actually have a video indicating how it should look. Obviously I created it in 3D, so you can go check that video out. I'll leave it on the link as well. It's planet side rooms and space stations, if you ask me, really should probably be a little bit bigger, a bit more spacious, because in the future I'm assuming we're going to want to rent some of these places or even buy some of these rooms. So I doubt you're going to want to buy a room that's tiny like this, but I wouldn't get rid of those rooms, because I think those rooms are pretty awesome. I probably want to have a room like that, because I might not be staying at this place, so I don't want to spend a hell of a lot of money on somewhere where I ain't going to be staying. So anyway, so taking stuff like that into consideration, utilization of space, if we were to do that, a lot of these ships that have so much rooms could have a hell of a lot more rooms. That's a hell of a lot more people that can help you repair your ship, should your ship be under fire, and you're under the lucky hand of that situation. So the more people aboard your ship vessel, the better, and it doesn't compromise space. You're actually making more room with the room that you already have in the ship, because you have a lot of open space that's unnecessary. I'm assuming most ships ain't gonna be like that. If you watch Star Trek, technically Star Wars, there's a lot of personnel aboard their vessels, which means a lot of personnel have places to go, rest, etc., etc., etc. The recycled material stuff is something that really needs to be taken into consideration. We're actually doing things in the system. We're actually gathering materials. We're actually using specific materials to fix specific components. We're not just taking, materials, and the material just magically becomes what we need to fix whatever it is we're trying to fix, because I need that fixed. You have to get the right material to fix the damn thing. You have to go to the stores to buy the materials to fix the damn thing. You don't have to mine. You can buy it from another player. Maybe you can go to a store to get the minerals. or the elements or whatever it is that you're looking for, and then you fix your ship, or you take your ship to the mechanic or to an engineer. So the approach has to be a little bit more realistic, if you ask me. Obviously, ship battle model proposals. If I was to briefly cover this, guys, you have two galaxies. Here's one, here's the other one, and between those two galaxies, picture us on Earth. If you were to take a man and put him outside of Earth and do a size comparison, I don't know if you're going to see the dude. So you take that dude, put him in a ship, and you put him between two galaxies, right in between them, in the middle of two galaxies, Andromeda and Milky Way. This guy is so insignificant, gravity would not affect him. Why do I say this? Because there's no saying if between two Milky Ways, you're gonna hit absolute zero, or if you're gonna meet a different level of gravity that is incomprehensible for our understanding. Because that level of gravity, I doubt you could even apply maths to such an equation. So simply because there's two strong, powerful things rotating around each other. And so, that between there's gonna be a lot of pressure, you might think. But because we're so insignificant to that pressure, it might not affect us. But maybe it does. But for our entertainment, it doesn't affect us. So as it doesn't affect us, between those two places is absolute zero G. There's no gravity effect at all. So flying in that region of space is completely different to flying between two stars. Between two stars, we have a little bit more significance than being between two galaxies. Then you go between a star and a planet. We have a little bit more significance again. So the zero G element, though it's all zero G, there's different levels of zero G elements. So this is like zero G1 or zero G2. The one between two stars is zero G3. The one between two stars is zero G3, and the one between two galaxies is zero G4. Between the planet and the moon is zero G1, which is what we're accustomed to, which is what we're familiar with. Okay, so as you fly out into from the planet, and you're between the planet and the moon, remember the star has influence over this region. So gravity is going to be very it's still going to be very restrictive to how we can maneuver in space. Give me a moment, guys. So gravity is going to be very restrictive to how we move in space. And then you've got between two stars. Obviously, the distance between two stars is quite vast. So zero element G is going to be a lot better for us to maneuver. You could probably reach light speed, fly at light speed, or maybe reach a level just by light speed. Because remember, as you grasp gravity by the fringes of its hair strands, it begins to accumulate. You begin to add multiplications, force and pressure. So the faster you go is the more pressure and force you begin to generate. Then you go between a star and the galaxy. So that's actually another one. So that's when you're heading out into the middle of nowhere. So you're actually kind of running away from all sorts of gravity. So it's the faster you can go. And then you go between two galaxies, which is, there's just no gravity at all, if that makes any sense. So this is a flight proposal that actually goes a lot deeper than what I'm telling you now. It doesn't get rid of the in-game flight model, because obviously there's so many versions of zero G element space. It's impossible to say there's only one version of flying through space, so no one can say, oh, you're damaging the flight model. That flight model doesn't have to go anywhere. That flight model that you're talking about is either between the planet and the moon, or it's between the planet and the star, or two stars, or it's between the star and the universe, the galaxy, or it's between two galaxies. Your flight model doesn't go anywhere. All you're doing is applying more flight models. This way you don't get bored. It's not like Sonic the Hedgehog, guys. So that's something to really look into. That this is something, and then obviously compatibility. You don't want to just be wearing heavy armors with heavy armors. It doesn't make any sense. If you have, like I expressed in my previous video, if you have a heavy armor, right now, if I put a heavy gun on my back, 2 heavy guns, it's gonna weigh me down. And then I've got bombs on me, I've got ammo everywhere. You know, how I move around now is gonna be different if I put all these heavy guns on, I've got ammo on me everywhere. If I put light armor on, and then I put heavy armor on, what's the difference? Light armor, I can still move around a little bit how I do now, but it's gonna be very restrictive, because it's got protective materials within its fabrics. So it's kind of going to restrict me to prevent me from being hurt by projectiles. Heavy armor is the extremes of the light armor. So my restrictions are going to be a hell of a lot more noticeable than when I'm wearing light armor. It's also going to weigh me down a lot more. Then I'm going to put heavy guns on me all over the place and say that I want to go running away or running this way or running that way. Remember, I want to go flying to a planet that has gravity. Chances are it has more gravity than Earth, which means you're multiplying pressure upon a human being. Then you have guns and shields. You have ballistics. How they affect shields, you would have to explain that to me. So that's something that needs to be looked into, if you ask me. Again, that adds another level to space flight battle model, which is a hell of a lot more strategy to how things will go. So I personally believe players will have a lot more fun playing around with this new model, which is applying as much models as you. Another thing, guys, that we don't want to forget is when you go flying into a nebulae or a dust cloud, we have to kind of remember what this means, guys. A dust cloud is a place where you go to find stars being born and planets being born, which means there's going to be a lot of dysfunctional gravity anomalies going on within that cloud. As it spins around, gravity is going to kind of take its effect. Which means that when you're flying through a dust cloud, as it were, you're going to be kind of distorted with different levels of gravitational fields. So here might be 50 times that of Earth's gravity, and you're probably going to get swirling because these things move. And then over here might be like the moon. You know, and then over here might be like Jupiter, and over here might be very, you just never know. So flying through a dust cloud should be a very tricky situation, as well as trying to space battle in one. So so that was another proposal. So that's another way to look at things, taking a deeper thought, an insightful thought, and how ballistics actually affect shields. You really have to go over that one, guys. Let's see what else. Bags on armors. We got to make a final approach to that, because if I also go out right now to the local and also buy myself a bag to put on my back, I ain't stuck for choice. I ain't sitting there just looking at the light bags unless I'm affected by price. That's the only hindrance I will have going out to buy myself a product. Other than that, there's nothing hindering me from buying a bag. The only thing is, I wouldn't go out and buy myself a hiking bag, because it doesn't suit the purpose of the needs that I will be using it for on a day-to-day basis. Though it's very effective, because it has a lot of pockets, has a lot of room, it has a lot of space. It just doesn't, suit the. So I would go for a normal daily standard looking bag. Missions currently in the game are very boring. I don't know if you guys agree with this, but this is how I feel about it. Missions are very boring. I would like to start seeing a lot more of this stuff. I don't know why we haven't brought passenger stuff in yet, when a lot of ships already have coffee stuff in, and food. The E3, if you ask me, needs to kind of be looked into a little bit more. The reason being, the reason being is because you want to be able to have air hostesses that serve your passengers. So looking at real life, then looking at the game, and then saying to yourself, how do we approach passengers or escorting passenger ships, and how do we escalate that so it's a better experience for us in the future, 900 years in the future. Now I know, looking at a lot of these ships, how creative CIG is. If I didn't think they were this creative, I wouldn't present half of this stuff that I'll be talking about right now. So yes, I'm fascinated. I'm pretty sure we're all fascinated, but don't get caught up in the hype. We're not trying to play Tomb Raider. We're not trying to play Gears of War. We're not trying to play Resident Evil, guys. Because right now, running through the ASD is a lot like playing Resident Evil. It's just surrounded by zombies, and one of the zombies are going to nip you at some point or another. We're trying to create a futuristic space simulator. So anyway, guys, for now, that's the best I have for you. It's your boy Patience. I hope you like what you be season and heard. And if you did, leave your thumbs and those likes and those comments down below. And if you have any queries, guys,